G'day guys, and today I thought I might go through something a little bit different. I thought I might get some information out about chlorine and the dangers it poses in your system and what you can do to combat it. So if you want to learn about chlorine, keep on watching. Okay, chlorine. Basically, the reason it's in our tap water is to keep us safe from any bugs, bacteria, and that sort of stuff that would naturally grow inside of it. It stops it from building up to levels that would be toxic to us and poisonous to us, and it kills off any little bugs and that sort of stuff inside of it. But it's not so good for fish. If we put, this is straight tap water here, and if I put a fish straight in here, basically it will die. The chlorine will get into its gills and start to burn its gills, and to the point that it just can't breathe the water anymore and they will die. The fish will get, the gills will start to flare out and the mouth will be straight open and they will just die inside of it. I say this as somebody who has actually killed fish before this way. I'm not quite proud of it, but it happened. I had a problem with my system and I tried salting it. I put too much salt in there and I tried flushing the water out, and then I put straight tap water back into it. I put too much of it and then I had a whole lot of floating fish. So it was not fun. Okay, so there's two main sorts of chlorines that come inside of tap water. There is chlorine by itself, just normal chlorine, and then chloramine, which is chlorine that's been bonded with ammonia to make it last a lot longer in the system. So it can last up to weeks inside of your system if it's got chloramines in your system, which is not what you want, but you can't really control your tap water, so you've got to deal with what you've actually got inside your system. So the best way to tell the difference if you got it or if you don't, the first way to do is to have a look on your government's website. The local state website should say whether you've got it or not, and the second way to do it is basically have a sniff of the water. Chlorine, you'll usually get the chlorine smell from it, but with chloramines, you won't get any sort of chlorine smell at all from it. And that's the basic way to tell if it's there. Now, you don't want to have chlorine inside of your water, but sometimes you just can't avoid it. It's in your tap water and you've got to fill up the tank, and it's just how it is. If it was an aquarium, the basic rule of thumb would be to put no chloramine-based water inside of it at all, but aquaponics is slightly different. We've got far larger quantities of water inside of it, and we can deal with a lot more water, a lot more chloramines inside of it than you would be able to in an aquarium. But it doesn't when you want to go crazy, because as I said, I killed fish, and I probably put about 50% of the amount of water in there from tap water, and that was enough to kill off all the fish that was in there. Well, the hardier fish like the goldfish survived, but I had Murray cod in there and it just knocked a lot of them on the head. Okay, so chlorine, we know straight from the tap, will become dangerous to the fish, which is not what we want. But there are levels that the fish can tolerate inside of the system. They're probably not going to like it too much, but it's quite doable. So from trial and error, we've discovered that you can use about a quarter of the tank, you can top up with straight tap water. That dilutes the water, and that dilutes the chlorine in the water enough to the point that it's not going to be dangerous for the fish or for the bacteria colonies inside of it. But do not go any further than that. If you don't want to put straight tap water into it, there are a couple other options that you can use. So there are dechlorinators that you can put inside of the system. I used them for quite a while, but they just ended up getting quite expensive, but they did work. Basically, you put a few drops straight into the water and it takes out all the chlorine straight away. The other way that I've read up about is using some of these, vitamin C tablets. And apparently these will break down, the acid inside of these will break down the chlorine that's inside of it and will dilute it enough or break it down so it's no longer an issue. So I thought I might do a bit of trial and error and a bit of testing to see how much there is inside of it. So a nice lady on the Aquaponics forum has sent me some of these. These are little chlorine testers, little chlorine strips that I can use to test how much chlorine there is inside of the water here. So I have a couple different ones. So this is straight tap water. Straight from the tap and with nothing else started to it, hasn't been bubbled, and it's probably only been out of there about 10 minutes. The other one here is tank water. So this is water straight from my tank, and it's a straight tank water. So you can see a slightly greenish tinge from the tank. And the last one here is a filter tap. So as you can see here, I've got a nice little filter tap that's set up to it. I bought it off eBay and it was not expensive at all. It's got a carbon filter and a sediment filter inside of it, and that goes through to an automatic top up, and that tops up the water for me. So that's basically removing all the chlorine inside of it. Well, I hope. I'm going to test it shortly, and it should keep out any sort of chlorine from the system, which is my ideal way of doing it. So if I do need to top up more than a quarter, then it'll be more than safe and I just don't need to think about it. Okay, so I thought I might do a bit of testing on it, and a nice lady from the forum sent me these. These are little chlorine test strips. and they should be able to tell me how much chlorine there is in each of these samples here. So I'll dip each of them in. So tap, the filtered water, and the tank water. And the same, give it a couple seconds. Fold it over on itself. Okay, so as you can see, this is the tap water, the tank water, and the fresh filtered water. And you should be able to see the difference in colours there, but going off my little sheet, this has approximately 0.02 parts per million chlorine inside of it, which is a little bit lethal for the fish. And breaking down, the other two have got pretty much nil inside of it. So the filter works. Yay! The best thing that I would advise is get yourself a little setup that I've got. I know it's not for everybody, but it stays on. I don't have to worry about topping up the system because of the float valve inside of it, and it just works. I don't have to worry about too much chlorine getting in there and all those sort of fun things. So I'll leave it up to you guys. If you guys have got any more questions or want to know more about it, please hit me up in the comments, and I hope this is useful for you. So yeah, thanks for watching, and if you like my videos, subscribe around there somewhere. Thanks.